This is the Voice of the Worker, bringing you the news for October 30th, 2025. This news is current as of 2100 Pacific Standard Time, midnight Eastern Standard Time, 0400 British Standard Time, 0700 Moscow Standard Time, and 1200 China Standard Time. In our first story of the day, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce has announced that the United States has agreed to cancel its 10% quote-unquote fentanyl tariffs and suspend 24% reciprocal tariffs on Chinese goods, including from Hong Kong and Macau, for 1 year. China will adjust its countermeasures and extend certain tariff exclusions. The United States will also suspend a September 29th rule expanding quote-unquote entity list export restrictions for 1 year. China will suspend its October 9th export controls for 1 year and steady refinements. Additionally, the United States will suspend Section 301 measures targeting China's maritime, logistics, and shipbuilding sectors for 1 year, with China suspending countermeasures in response. Both sides reached consensus on fentanyl anti-drug cooperation, expanding agricultural trade, handling individual enterprise cases, investment commitments, and resolving TikTok's issues within the United States. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce stated that the results show that equality, respect, mutual benefit, and dialogue can solve problems, injecting stability into bilateral ties and the global economy. In the United States, Democratic Party lawmakers have expressed frustration after being excluded from a classified briefing on the Trump administration's strikes against alleged drug vessels in the Caribbean, including the waters near Venezuela. Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chairman Mark Warner demanded full intel sharing, while Representative Gregory Meeks reported that there are, quote, many unanswered questions, end quote, about the operation's legality and oversight. Bipartisan senators have raised concerns over the strike's compliance with international law, while Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has denounced the strikes as a pretext for regime change, a view which has been echoed by United Nations officials warning of ulterior motives beyond counter-narcotic efforts. Adding to the scrutiny, Admiral Alvin Halsey, commander of U.S. Southern Command, otherwise referred to as SOUTHCOM, which oversees military operations in Central, South America, and the Caribbean, announced his abrupt retirement on October 16th, just 1 year into a typical 3-year term. Halsey, who assumed command in late 2024, offered to resign during a meeting amid reported tensions over the Caribbean strikes and Venezuela-related operations, with his departure set for the end of 2025. War Secretary Pete Hegseth confirmed the move without further explanation, raising alarms about leadership stability in the region. Separately, Lieutenant General Joe McGee, a 3-star general on the Joint Staff, retired after months of reported friction with War Secretary Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs General Dan Kane. This marks the latest high-level departure in the Pentagon. And in a related incident, the U.S. military struck another alleged drug-carrying boat in the Pacific on October 30th, killing all 4 aboard, according to Hegseth. Critics highlight growing questions about the strike's legal framework and the potential risk of unnecessary escalation. Turning our attention to the Ukrainian conflict, Russian forces have tightened encirclements around Ukrainian troops in the Pokrovsk area, reducing the evacuation corridor to under 1.2 kilometers and creating a kill zone with artillery, FPV drones, and snipers. Reports indicate up to 180 Ukrainian soldiers have been lost in the past 24 hours, with fewer than 5,000 remaining in the cauldron near Krasnoyarivka, down from an initial 5,500. 8 Ukrainian counterattacks were repelled, forcing retreats with heavy losses. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian advances include control over Sadova village west of the city, repelling Ukrainian efforts to regain river crossings. Broader operations report captures in Zaporozhye, such as Krasnohora village, and progress in Seversk, including 25% of Zivovika and clearing pockets near Vovchansk. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered a temporary ceasefire of 5 to 6 hours in encircled areas to allow foreign journalists, including the Ukrainian media, unimpeded access via secure corridors to sites in the Donbass. The Russian Ministry of Defense stated, quote, "The command is prepared to cease hostilities and provide entry and exit corridors for groups of foreign media representatives, subject to security guarantees," end quote. The offer aims to document conditions for the encircled forces, with no evacuation routes available, conditional on Ukrainian forces agreeing to ensuring safety. A Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesperson urged journalists to reject the proposal, stating, quote, "Frankly, I do not recommend that any reporters trust any of Putin's proposals for corridors in the war zone. I saw firsthand how such proposals play out on August 29, 2014. End quote. He claimed Putin, quote, "has never kept any of his ceasefire pledges," end quote, and warned of potential, quote, "Russian provocations against journalists," end quote. The spokesman added that visits to Russian-occupied territory without Ukraine's permission violate Ukrainian legislation and international law, with, quote, "long-term reputational and legal consequences," end quote, and that Ukraine is, quote-unquote, "watching closely." Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky denied encirclement of troops and accused Russia of exaggerating their gains. Analysts note ongoing Ukrainian manpower shortages, with predictions of surrenders and potential collapses in multiple fronts. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stated on October 30th that Russia will respond if the U.S. abandons the moratorium on nuclear weapons testing. Peskov referenced Russian President Vladimir Putin's position, stating, quote, "If someone abandons the moratorium, then Russia will act accordingly," end quote. He acknowledged the U.S.'s sovereign right to decide, but noted that Russia is not yet aware of any such tests by any other country. Regarding last week's Burevestnik missile test, Peskov clarified, quote, "If it is about Burevestnik, then it is not a nuclear test," end quote, adding that all nations develop defense systems without violating the moratorium on nuclear testing. Russia last conducted a nuclear test in 1990, while the United States halted nuclear testing in 1992. This follows U.S. President Donald Trump's October 29th order to the Pentagon to resume testing immediately, citing programs by the Russian Federation and People's Republic of China. SIPRI estimates that the U.S. has 5,177 nuclear warheads, the Russian Federation has 5,459, and the People's Republic of China is projected at having 1,500 by 2035. Recent U.S. actions include a Minuteman III test in February of this year and 4 Trident II launches in September of this year. Thank you for listening to today's broadcast, and revolutionary greetings from the voice of the worker.
Расцветали яблони и груши, поплыли туманы над рекой. Выходила на берег Катюша, на высокий берег, на крутой. Выходила на берег Катюша, на высокий берег, на крутой. Выходила, песню заводила про степного сизого орла, про того, которого любила, про того, чьи письма берегла. Про того, которого любила, про того, чьи письма берегла. Пойте, песня, песенка не вечер, и летит за ясным солнцем свет, и вальцу на дальнем пограничье от Катюши передай привет. И вальцу на дальнем пограничье от Катюши передай привет. Пусть он вспомнит девушку простую, пусть услышит, как она поет, пусть он землю бережет родную, а любовь Катюша сбережет. Пусть он землю